Israel is on the move, but they're not on the happy bus. Numbers 11, verse 1. The people were complaining in the ears of Yahweh. When Yahweh heard it, his anger burned, and Yahweh's fire burned among them and consumed some of the outskirts of the camp. Comment, they complained and he consumed some of them. It doesn't say what they complained about, but in my experience, if there's nothing to complain about, somebody will use his imagination and think of something. No doubt traveling and camping in the desert is truly uncomfortable, but Yahweh expects us to look at the big picture, which is that we're on a most blessed and promising journey. We've seen many miracles along the way to confirm the word of Yahweh, and the future is secure. So thanksgiving is in order, not complaining. When Israel worshiped the golden calf at Sinai, Yahweh told Moses he wasn't going up to the promised land with them because, he said, quote, "If I were to go up among you for one moment, I would consume you," Exodus 33:5. But Moses convinced Yahweh to go up with them, and it didn't take long for some of them to be consumed. How often does Yahweh have to withhold his anger against us? He's known for his patience, but there's always a limit. Verse 2, the people cried to Moses, and Moses prayed to Yahweh, and the fire abated. The name of that place was called Taberah because Yahweh's fire burned among them. Comment, Taberah means burning. Verse 4, the mixed multitude that was among them lusted exceedingly, and the children of Israel also wept again and said, "Who will give us meat to eat?" Comment, it says they were a mixed multitude. A multitude is always mixed, even in a church. There's always some rabble among the faithful and always some faithful among the rabble. After some just died for complaining, now they, quote, wept again and said, "Who will give us meat to eat?" We remember they complained of hunger on the way to Sinai, and Yahweh covered the camp with quail, Exodus 16:13. He also started bringing manna 6 days per week, but it seems the quail was a one-time thing. They go on complaining, verse 5. We remember the fish which we ate in Egypt for nothing, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. But now we have lost our appetite. There is nothing at all except this manna to look at. The manna was like coriander seed, and its appearance like the appearance of bdellium. The people went around, gathered it, and ground it in mills, or beat it in mortars, and boiled it in pots, and made cakes of it. Its taste was like the taste of fresh oil. When the dew fell on the camp at night, the manna fell on it. Comment, God supplies everything we really need every day. Verse 10, Moses heard the people weeping throughout their families, every man at the door of his tent, and Yahweh's anger burned greatly, and Moses was displeased. Comment, now Moses joins in the complaining himself, but he's complaining about something else. Verse 11, Moses said to Yahweh, "Why have you treated your servant so badly? Why haven't I found favor in your sight, that you lay this burden of all this people on me? Have I conceived all this people? Have I brought them out that you should tell me, carry them in your bosom as a nurse carries a nursing infant to the land which you swore to their fathers?" Comment, this is actually a pretty funny comment. Moses complains he has a bunch of nursing infants on his hands, and he's no nursemaid. Verse 13, where could I get meat to give all these people? For they weep before me, saying, "Give us meat that we may eat." I am not able to bear all this people alone, because it is too heavy for me. If you treat me this way, please kill me right now, if I have found favor in your sight, and don't let me see my wretchedness. Comment, when Yahweh spoke to Moses at the burning bush, Moses saw trouble coming. He knew Israel would be difficult. He told Yahweh, "Please send someone else," Exodus 4:13. So Moses has been operating at his limits for a long time. But Yahweh provides. We have to remember that. There's no need to look anxiously about. Isaiah 41:10, quote, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not anxiously look about you, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Surely I will help you. Surely I will uphold you with my righteous right hand," end quote. Some people seem to be a lot more tolerant of chaos than others. We should remember that Yahweh is near, even in the chaos. Verse 16, Yahweh said to Moses, Gather to me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom you know to be the elders of the people, and officers over them, and bring them to the tent of meeting, that they may stand there with you. I will come down and talk with you there. I will take of the Spirit which is on you, and will put it on them, and they shall bear the burden of the people with you, that you don't bear it yourself alone. Comment, Yahweh is going to use the mouths of these 70 men to preach some sanity. Verse 18, Say to the people, Sanctify yourselves in preparation for tomorrow, and you will eat meat, for you have wept in the ears of Yahweh, saying, Who will give us meat to eat? For it was well with us in Egypt. Therefore Yahweh will give you meat, and you will eat. You will not eat 1 day, nor 2 days, nor 5 days, neither 10 days, nor 20 days, but a whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils, and it is loathsome to you, because you have rejected Yahweh, who is among you, and have wept before him, saying, Why did we come out of Egypt? Comment, Yahweh says, You have rejected Yahweh. He takes complaining personally. Verse 21, Moses said, The people among whom I am are 600,000 men on foot, and you have said, I will give them meat, that they may eat a whole month. Shall flocks and herds be slaughtered for them to be sufficient for them? Shall all the fish of the sea be gathered together for them to be sufficient for them? Comment, Moses, where is your faith? You are at the Red Sea. All this time you've been talking to Yahweh face to face, any time you pleased. Yahweh always answered you, and his answer worked every time. Moses is the man, along with Elijah, who appeared with Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration, Matthew 17:3. So by that measure, he's one of the 2 greatest prophets ever. Verse 23, Yahweh said to Moses, Has Yahweh's hand grown short? Comment, that's a memorable line. Has Yahweh's hand grown short? Isaiah 59:1, quote, Behold, Yahweh's hand is not shortened, that it can't save, nor his ear dull, that it can't hear, end quote. If we could just remember that. Yahweh says, going on, Now you will see whether my word will happen to you or not. Comment, Will Yahweh fulfill the end-time prophecies? Will we see him face to face? He told Moses, Now you will see whether my word will happen to you or not. Verse 24, Moses went out and told the people Yahweh's words, and he gathered 70 men of the elders of the people and set them around the tent. Yahweh came down in the cloud and spoke to him, and took of the Spirit that was on him and put it on the 70 elders. When the Spirit rested on them, they prophesied, but they did so no more. Comment, they prophesied, but they did so no more. They didn't become like Moses except for a brief moment. Hopefully the Lord infused them with enough faith to go back into the camp and spread some positivity and optimism. But coming up, 2 of the 70 didn't come to the tent. Verse 26, But 2 men remained in the camp. The name of one was Eldad, and the name of the other Medad. And the Spirit rested on them, and they were of those who were written, but had not gone out to the tent. And they prophesied in the camp. A young man ran and told Moses and said, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of Moses, one of his chosen men, answered, My lord Moses, forbid them. Moses said to him, Are you jealous for my sake? I wish that all Yahweh's people were prophets, that Yahweh would put his Spirit on them. Moses went into the camp, he and the elders of Israel. Comment, they went into the camp, it would seem, to quiet the people with some positivity that came from the prophesying. Verse 31, A wind from Yahweh went out and brought quails from the sea, and let them fall by the camp, about a day's journey on this side and a day's journey on the other side around the camp, and about 2 cubits above the surface of the earth. Comment, the quail were stacked up 3 feet high around the camp, as far as a person could walk in a day. That's a miracle like the Red Sea. Verse 32, The people rose up all that day and all of that night and all of the next day and gathered the quails. He who gathered least gathered 10 homers, and they spread them all out for themselves around the camp. Comment, 10 homers is about 7 bushels. They spread out the quails probably to dry the meat for preservation. They got the meat like they asked, but something negative came along with it. Speaking of this same incident, Psalm 106, verse 15, brings more insight. Quote, He gave them their request, but sent leanness into their soul. End quote. They filled their bellies, but not their souls. Only faith could do that. Verse 33, While the meat was still between their teeth, before it was chewed, Yahweh's anger burned against the people, and Yahweh struck the people with a very great plague. The name of that place was called Kibroth Hattaavah, because there they buried the people who lusted. Comment, Kibroth Hattaavah means the graves of sensuous desire. On to verse 35. From Kibroth Hattaavah the people traveled to Hazeroth, and they stayed at Hazeroth. Comment, now they've gone on to Hazeroth, and that's the chapter. See it for Numbers 12 at landofhavilah.net. You can find Numbers 12 there very easily. In the meantime, don't complain. Here's a map of Numbers 11. They set forward from Mount Sinai in chapter 10. This is modern Mount Sinai. May or may not be the same as biblical Mount Sinai. Chapter 11 mentioned Taberah, Kibroth Hattaavah, and Hazeroth. Those locations are unknown, but they were empty before Israel got there, and we presume empty after they left, so it's no surprise they're unknown. A wind came from the sea and brought quail. Psalm 78:26 says that particular wind was from the east and south. So with these clues, this might be the general location of those three places. As we zoom in on the satellite view, we can't see any vegetation, nothing but dry, barren terrain. It's a place that might tempt someone to complain. See you next time for Numbers 12.